Welcome to the Voices of Ecosystems.
Welcome to today's session, Voices of Ecosystem, and I'm really happy to have a great guest today in Munich, David Stachon. David Stachon is, as I can say, one of the famous persons in the insurance industry in Germany, because he is the Chief Digital Officer. Of course, you were in the management board of Generali Germany. You were the Chief Digital Officer of Generali Germany. And prior, you have a McKinsey background and various positions within the Generali Group. But maybe you can just let us know a little bit more about what you have done and what you are currently doing, maybe also.
Yeah, thank you, Julian. To give a little bit of background on my CV, I started actually as a biochemist at the Max Planck Institutes doing cancer research. That's my far background. And I always kept an eye on science, on medicine and stuff like that. And that also brought me to the insurance industry. After the McKinsey time, I entered DKV, one of the biggest German private health insurers, and came into the Ergo Group. I had several positions within the Ergo Group. I was Chief Marketing Officer there. We had build-ups in South Korea and China and India. And after that, I joined the Royal Bank of Scotland and the Direct Line Group, heading one of the biggest direct insurers in Europe with the Direct Line Group. And after that, I was CEO of CosmosDirekt and later on also in the board of Generali Germany, as you said. And within these activities, I always had to do with ecosystems, on how do you work together with others? How do you orchestrate all this stuff that goes around in the insurance industry? So I'm very interested in the subject, as you know, because we already met several times.
Yeah, that's great. So you already started with the first question. So before I could actually raise it, the question is now, what is your connects to the topic? And maybe when you elaborate on that a little bit, maybe you can give us some background about ecosystems in the insurance industry. So where are the big topics for insurance companies to be part of ecosystems, to address the topic? So what is your experience there?
Yeah. First of all, I think if it comes to insurance, there was a time like 30, 50 years ago, or even 100 years ago, where insurance companies used to do everything on their own. They programmed every piece of software. They managed every new technology. They did the sales themselves with big organizations in the field. So everything was closed shop within insurance, and that for a very long period of time. If you take the old incumbents in the industry, they're like 200, 250 years old. And for like 200 years, they have done their business in the same way. And actually that changed in the last decade, probably. The last 10 years, insurances started to integrate with other businesses and share knowledge, not doing everything themselves. Of course, IT, because what is an insurance company? It's a huge computer that is actually run by a lot of people. And people are not programming everything in IT anymore themselves, because innovation, new things become so fast and there is so much going on that it's impossible for one company to keep up with all the developments that there are in software technology. And I include in that big data, analytics, AI, all these types of technology, blockchain, you name it, we have it. You can't be top in each of these fields. So they opened up and integrated more and more of these players which are able to do other things. Same is true for like the claims area, where they used to do everything themselves, but it became so complex because technology became so complex that you now have specialists for certain areas that help you in settling claims and doing things there as well. So you become from doing or becoming having been a company that does everything on its own to be an integrating system of a lot of other companies that are doing things around you.
I understand that. And as you know, I was also in the insurance industry not a long time ago, but like 6 years ago, working for AXA in Germany. And what actually I see now is that apart from that, what you describe in the core business, where you have now partners in claims or in other parts of the value chain, that there are activities, ecosystem activities from the insurance companies also in other, we call it life areas, for instance, in mobility or in health, apart from insurance, where insurance companies are trying to generate additional value, additional revenues by partnering. The question is now, with your experience, in which fields or in which areas is there currently the most potential for insurance companies from a general standpoint? Of course, every company is different, but maybe you can comment a little bit on that, where you see personally the most relevant areas to partner apart from the core business.
Yeah. Apart from the core business, I would name 3 areas actually, which are the value drivers within the future insurance industry. First, the easiest one, it's health. It's health and well-being, because it's a huge market. There's huge interest, especially with the even in older population that we have in most developed economies. It's one of the areas where a lot of money, a lot of economic value goes to. And as you are, as an insurance industry, always into that area, because most of the big ones have health insurers as well, you are already quite close to things like lifestyle things, keeping healthy, fitness, and all that stuff. So that's I would call that natural prolongation of the value chain. In it. So, and we see lots of activities. If you see like what the big players from Allianz, from Generali and AXA are doing, all of them have activities in that area to coming from a pure payer. We pay if something happens, to, hey, we help you to stay healthy, to feel better, to feel younger, all that stuff. And that's a natural move. The second natural move I would call is mobility. Because as we all know, our mobility changes from individually owned, individually driven motor vehicles to lots of different ways of mobility. So
you still have a car by your own, or you're just...
I still have, but I also have all the cards in my pocket for, you know, to drive shared cars and all this stuff. But I also must say I have the car mostly because I'm a car fan.
Okay.
And from the kilometers I move, my own car is probably the device that I use the least.
Okay.
So that's very special probably in that situation. So, but mobility is something that really is a natural thing as well, because we always insured mobility. And now there are the different layers of types of mobility that you have, that it's naturally to go there and partner up with different players to grab some of the value that is created there. And the third one is around being home, security, connected home. You might, some insurance call that domosity, in the sense of, you know, vitality, mobility, domosity. And that's also quite normal to go there, prolong there, because we always insured everything that is around your home. And there is the same logic from something happens, we pay. No, but let us help to prevent that something is happening. And if something's happening, let us make it easier to, you know, cover up and cope with the bad things that might happen around your house, your flat, whatever. Yeah. So these are the 3 areas where I see it very naturally that insurers play a role in an ecosystem.
Okay, now we have always the perspective of Ping An in Asia, who is already addressing all of these topics very professionally, very successfully. The question is now from a European standpoint, and I mean, you have the experience also from the European perspective of Generali, of course. So what is what is missing? What do the European players missing or miss in terms of that? What is Generali doing what is Ping An doing in terms of being always the best practice player for ecosystems in the insurance industry, or even in these fields you were just mentioning?
This is something probably of the political drawbacks that you have when you're coming from any one of the European countries. And let me make a slightly political statement here. It's one of the cases where you clearly see that there is no other way than an integration of Europe. Because any of us in Europe is just too small as a home market to cope with the technology developments that you can do for China. If you can do something in China, and you can do it for whole of China, your fixed cost compared to your potentials are just so much better in the terms of the quotient that you get there. But if you do something, you have to do something for Germany, and you have to change it for Italy, you have to even change it for Luxembourg, then it gets quite trickier to get to that scale that Ping An has. And it has to do with different legislation, different technologies that are used, different habits also. I mean, if it comes to insurance, in how we use insurance, how we do things like mobility and stuff, European countries are still quite different. So for me, one of the most important things is to get to European solutions, because then we have a market size that actually can compete with the big competitors from China or the US on the other side, because their biggest advantage is everything they do for one big home market, and then they can go into the world, and it's much easier because they at least have a big home market. I mean, if you're a Swiss insurance company, your home market is quite limited, even if everybody in Switzerland takes you as a choice.
Absolutely true. I agree. In addition to that, I think we also have the data issue, which is also different in China, and data is actually the source of ecosystem business modeling, and also the size of the market, definitely. Apart from that, I think.
But Julian, let me maybe one to the data thing.
Yep, of course.
I think the data protection way we do in Europe is also a big advantage for the companies that are playing here. But even then, it would be better to have one data governance in Europe. The problem is that this would be an advantage, and I'm a strong believer in data protection. I think any individual should be the owner and master of its own data and decide what the economic value and who does what with the data. But we need one common regime in Europe. Then you can do something and build it upscale. But now you even in Germany, the Saarland has a different data protection regime than Bavaria, and it has a different from Hamburg.
I mean, we see that in the Corona crisis, not only with data, but with this kind of federalism or this organization of the German legislative system. Yeah. Apart from that, I would like to switch over to health, because it's, as you just mentioned at the beginning, your second background and your second field of experience, because I think we have also there the data issue, as you mentioned it, but we have also lots of ecosystem activities, but I think the big players like a Ping An are not yet there. So everybody is addressing healthcare from the insurance industry, from the healthcare industry, but also from other industries like the tech players, Apple, Google, Facebook, etc. They all are starting health initiatives, investing in health startups, or trying to cooperate within ecosystem business models with the pharma industry. So the question is there, what is your perspective on that? Because we don't have this clear areas and clear players. Can you share with us a little bit your perspective on that? Who's actually winning the game maybe, or which are the fields within the healthcare game where you can win?
Yeah, I think there are two aspects I would like to stress out, which are very important. One is actually the question, as you said, who is the gatekeeper? Who is the gatekeeper of the data that is going on and who decides on where to collect it, where does it go, who analyzes this, and so on. In a lot of ways, it's actually two persons. It's in the younger years, it's the patient, the user itself. And there you are actually running a B2C system that is actually designed for B2B. Mm-hmm. And that makes it tricky because all the big players are playing B2B, but in the end, it's, 20 million people deciding putting data in or not. And that's tricky. And nobody has solved this, the first one. And the second one, and that's the later stage of your life, then it's the physician. I had a discussion yesterday exactly about this type of ecosystem thing, about people that are in permanent care. Mm-hmm. And in permanent care, it's not you yourself that decides actually where your data goes anymore. It's much more the treating physician that decides it. And even there, you have not big chunks of organization where you can load big chunks of data in, but it's physician by physician, one by one, that decides in any given situation if data is put in or not. And that makes the thing extremely tricky and extremely tough not to crack. The second level then, if you have the input, is actually compliance, data compliance. Mm-hmm. So one of my professors, when I studied, always said, well, you will always have an outcome if you measure something.
True.
You don't know if it's right, but you will always have an outcome. And that's also true for all this data selection part. For example, for years ago, we analyzed diabetes. And we took from the invoices of doctors which of our insured persons had a diabetes diagnosis on the header. And 35% of these were wrong. So, yeah, you can measure something, but lots of these data, if you're not hard compliant in what do you put in what time, and who does the measurement, and so on and so forth, you actually get a lot of data junk. And if you're wrong in the 30% or 20% area in medicine, you've got a real problem. And this is the second thing most of these systems you see are facing. You get lots of data, and you're not really sure if it's the right one. And you have to crack these two nuts, actually.
And to break it a little bit down, what are the topics you see in healthcare for an ecosystem with ecosystem potential? Care is one. I think I agree. Definitely. That's also what we see in many projects, not only from the insurance perspective, from many aspects to cooperate and to leverage value with ecosystem business models. But what are others? Maybe you have there some more.
Two others I would name at least. One is all the diagnostics part. Mm-hmm. If you think about, I have a folder where I have all my old diagnostics folded together because I'm from the medical area. Because I think we don't have to do this, 3 times.
I think many people in Germany don't have that.
99% of all Germans don't have that, full stop. So what you do is you do the same type of diagnostics like 10 times. And that's huge economic value to be grasped. So that's definitely one thing. To have all the diagnostics that has been done in one place, and it's, the government is planning something on that, and all the health insurers are planning something on that. But you have to have one system, and that since competition, you have to have, critical mass to do it. You have a critical mass in data that it really adds value. That's the first thing. And the second that comes directly with that is medication. Very simple. If you take a 75-year-old patient in Germany, on average, they take 7 different types of medication. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows what the interactions of 7 pills are that you take during a day. If you would have this information in one place and connect that via a good, intelligent analytic systems to a pharmaceutical database, I would bet we could improve the lives of millions of people. And I think this is huge potential, because a lot, if you think about 7 medications, probably you're treating side symptoms of one medication with another medication without even knowing it. I mean, if you take 7 pills, you wake up in the morning with a headache. Hey, so what? You probably do. And this is a huge thing, but that's also a very tough nut to crack, because you connect lots of data with lots of data. But this is probably something we will see cracked, because we're simply so much better in handling data now.
And what do you think? Who can crack that? That's my last topic. Is it more that the incumbents can have to enforce that, or is it more a startup topic? Of course, it's a corporation topic, because you have to bring the data together and the services together and the physicians together, etc. But what do you think? Who is in a better position to push that?
Yeah, but my first simple answer to that would be, it will not be the politicians. It's not. So the state will not solve this problem.
Okay,
that's my first basic belief. Second basic belief is, I think it will be a combination. I think it will be 1 or 2 big incumbents that have the market power and the data, together with 1 or 2 very smart technology companies that will crack this thing. There will be a smart genius with a small team that, will program the algorithm, understand this. It's like the Steve Jobs of biochemistry, I don't know. And they will, if they come together in the right moment and the right time with one of the big ones that have the access to the data, to the customers, to the medical databases, then this nut will be cracked. And that's a unicorn, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, and in general, what would you say for the role of startups in ecosystems? Is it that startups, of course, at the beginning, they have to focus on a particular product or service and then to scale? But when is for a startup the right moment to open up for partnering and not to get confused by the organization of partnerships, which is also a different or a difficult thing, or at least a challenging thing? So what would you say there? What would you recommend for startups when you're a mentor for startups to open up for partnerships?
Yeah, my answer to that probably would be, you should have what you might call a minimal viable product. You should have something developed on your own that makes you in anything better than the competition. Because that's life. You just wake up Monday morning, you do something, 10 other people will try to do the same thing. You should have something where you are better, what you bring to the table, that's your knowledge, your thing. The moment you have that, scaling up is extremely important, and scaling up is most of the times easier done with incumbents than on your own. As we had in another discussion, as you remember, it's just like the first 20,000 customers just come to you because you're new. And that's not the big part of the deal. The big part of the deal is the next 200, the next 500,000 customers that need to know that you exist. How does Fritz Müller know you exist on a Monday morning? Can you scale up your idea? So be clear that you have a core competition, something you are good at, which is, I think, in the core of any ecosystem. Being a biologist, a biochemist, in any ecosystem, there are different players that are good at one specific thing. And you have to be good at at least one specific thing. And then find the greater ecosystem where it really makes a difference. What you can do makes a difference in a bigger scale. Because just being good at one thing is nice, and that's probably enough to, feed 100 people or something, but in the end, it will not change the world. Changing the world ideas are always coming a good idea with a lot of scale around it.
That's already a good closing remark, but I still have two questions for you to finalize. First of all, what do you think will be in 3 years when we will have this kind of conversation for this ecosystem topic? Where do you see the most relevant changes and developments, no matter from the specific area, but in a general way? What are they? What is your perspective? Is this still a topic in the next years, and in which context?
Yeah, making prognosis about the future is always very tricky because 99% you're wrong, and I'm probably also wrong, but I make it.
Try it.
I try. I would believe that if you take like 3 to 5 years, we will talk a lot about the subject in the next 3 to 5 years, because here's my basic belief. I think a lot of the established industries are coming to the end of their S-curves. So yes, you can take out 2% in efficiency every year for the next 5 years. Yeah, done that. It's not really bringing you to the next level. And most of the things that we do, I mean, the way we produce cars, the way we actually run insurances today is pretty sophisticated. Where, you know, the total basic errors we have taken out of this system. So the big economic extra value comes where industries meet. Mm-hmm. The ideas between the subjects. When I started studying natural science, biochemistry was a totally strange thing. You either had biology or chemistry, and you had actually 3: physics, chemistry, biology. That's it, end of story. Today you have everything in between these subjects, and every other day there is something evolving in putting 2 of the established things or 3 of the established things together. And this is exactly what you talk about in ecosystems. You take something, parts that are established, reshuffle them, bring them together, and out comes something new that can really create extra value. And therefore, I think for the next years, it's a good subject to really care about. And we also had something in one of our previous discussions. It's 99% of all good ideas are not developed in any given company. Even if your company is called Apple or Google or Microsoft or you name it, or even Penang, 99% of all the good ideas are not inside your companies, but outside your company. So it's about talking and thinking about what can you do with all these great ideas that are outside your company. How do you incorporate them? How do you use them? How you work together with other people that can do good stuff. So I think, yes, it's a subject that will be here for the next years.
Yeah, great thoughts. So I totally agree. And also with the first issue of this blurring industry thing, I totally agree, because we say you go away from industries to life areas, and also actually life is totally digital one day. Maybe in 3, 5, 6 years, we don't know it yet. And that's why everybody has to cooperate to benefit from this transparency and also from the new needs which rise due to this development. So totally agree. And also the second point, yeah, I mean, we discussed that the question, why is that? Because it sounds so simple. If 99% is outside, why don't you grasp it? But it's so difficult. So maybe what is there your perspective? Why is it? Because it looks so simple.
Yeah, it seems. I think the first problem is that actually the energy that management puts into innovation is exactly done the opposite. 90% of the energy is about the ideas generated within the company.
Yeah.
And how do you generate more creative ideas? So it's all this wonderful stuff there. Let's have an innovation workshop on Friday afternoon, and we're also innovative on this workshop idea. And actually, even if you are innovative, you will not generate most of the great ideas on that Friday afternoon. On this Friday afternoon, where you having an innovation workshop in your company, 99% of the great ideas on that Friday afternoon will be outside your company. So But the management effort, the whole effort is so internally focused on how you can deal with your own ideas, how you can yourself come up with a good idea, where actually I believe management should pay more attention on, okay, I don't have to have a good idea because there are lots of good ideas outside there. I just have to be very open-minded and very grasping around and see, oh, this is good. We can work together. We can do something together and probably be much more innovative without having a single good idea.
Great. So that brings me now really to my ultimate question, which I ask everybody in this kind of vlog podcast series. In what extent or where do you live this ecosystem mindset, ecosystem thinking also in your personal or private life? Is there anything you're also an ecosystem person?
My simple answer to that, again, would be any family is an ecosystem. The basic concept of living together as human beings is living in an ecosystem logic. We've done that with the tribe, the family, the society, however you call it. But we are designed as human beings to live in ecosystems. Nature itself has always brought us to this idea, because there is something you are able to do which you're better in than what I can do. And so Adam Smith, that's quite an old idea as well, came to this brilliant idea: if you're better at A and I'm better at B, so you do A and I do B, and we're both more healthy. But it's so simple in its way. And we all do it all the time. As I said, in any family, you will do this. In any society, you will do this. And also maybe a political statement, if you think about this, bringing in diversity into societies, into companies, into any type of system is creating value. And we should always think about this when we think about, oh no, this is mine, I should make a border here. No, actually value is created in the exact other way, in opening up, in incorporating ideas, in bringing in stuff. And maybe that's, beside the economic thing we're talking about, a good idea to take away also from such a talk.
Now that are also great thoughts, and the best ideas are the simplest ideas. That's absolutely true. And the question is, why are the corporations are not yet so far if we are as human beings and in the nature even further? So that will be the next the next thought we have to think about in detail and discuss in the following sessions, in the following podcast. I'm really happy that you were here. Thank you so much, David, for your insights, for your thoughts, and looking forward to have you back again here one day. Thank you very much once again.
Totally happy to do so.
Perfect.